This video is on the objective make a conclusion and interpret the results for testing the difference between two means. Alright, and this is with population standard deviations known. Alright, so that means you're going to be eventually, your test statistic's going to be a z-score. You're going to be working with a normal distribution as opposed to the student's t distribution. Alright, and this is using the p-value approach. And this is the second video on this. Hopefully you watched the first one. I didn't really do too much in the first one because in these problems, they are going to be giving you the p-value and giving you the significance level. And that'll make it very easy to make conclusions. So again, if you want to see more about the objective, what they're telling you to do, how they're telling you things, just click on More Instruction and look at their videos, their notes, their examples. Hopefully those help you. Alright, so here, a cell phone manufacturer claims that the population mean battery life of its flagship smartphone model, the BlackBerry, is greater than the population mean battery life of the largest competitor, the Grizzly. A consumer advocacy publication tests this claim by purchasing a random sample of BlackBerry smartphones and a random sample of Grizzly smartphones. Members of the publication charged each smartphone to full capacity and then had the smartphones play the same videos until the batteries were completely depleted. The sample statistics are in the table below. Right, so there were 54 of these randomly selected BlackBerry phones, and their average battery life was 11.24 hours. There were 51 of these randomly selected Grizzly phones, and their average battery life was 11.06 hours. Based on data from the manufacturers, the publication assumes that the population standard deviation for the BlackBerry is 0.71 hours. So there's like sigma 1. Right? And the population standard deviation for the Grizzly is 0.63 hours. Right? So there's sigma 2. Let mu1 be the population mean battery life for the BlackBerry phones, and mu2 be the population mean battery life for the Grizzly phones. Now I don't have to do anything, right? Really? Because look at this. They give us the p-value for this test without, we don't have to calculate the test statistic and find the p-value then. They're doing it for us, right? They've already done it for us. They're saying the p-value, rounded to 3 decimal places, is 0.084, right? So the p-value is 0.084 or 8.4%. The significance level for this test, alpha, is 1%, 0.01. The null hypothesis, right? You'd assume that these average battery lengths, battery lives are equal. We'd assume that the BlackBerry and Grizzly phones have an equal average battery life. Whereas the alternative hypothesis is the claim that the BlackBerry has a longer average battery life than the Grizzly, so that mu1 minus mu2 is greater than 0. Right, and this would be a right-tailed test. So if I wanted to find the p-value myself, I would find the test statistic and then find the area under the standard normal curve to the right of that test statistic, and that would be my p-value, right? It's just the right-tailed test. But anyway, they gave us the p-value, though. The p-value is 0.084. Now remember, you compare the p-value to alpha. If the p-value is less than or equal to alpha, you reject the null hypothesis. If the p-value is greater than alpha, which is the case here, the p-value is bigger than alpha. In that case, you fail to reject the null hypothesis. All right, so again, here it says select all that apply. I'm selecting one of these two. Do I reject the null or fail to reject the null? Well, I'm not. I'm not rejecting it. So the null hypothesis that these two have an equal average battery life, I'm not rejecting that. So we're keeping that. We're keeping that statement that the Black Bear and the Grizzly phones on average have the same battery life. And if we're keeping the null, that means we're not supporting the alternative. And the alternative was this claim, saying that the Black Bear had a greater average battery life than the Grizzly. We're not saying that. We're not supporting that because, again, we're keeping the null. We're not rejecting the null. So the second, pick one of these two for the conclusion. And I said, this third one's what I said. Based on the results of this test, there is not enough evidence to say that the Black Bear phones have a greater battery life on average than the Grizzly phones, or their difference is greater than 0. There's not enough evidence to say that, again, because we are keeping the null. We're keeping the statement that their average battery life is equal and not supporting this other statement. Okay. Wonderful. Again, very easy these, because they give you the p-value, they give you the significance level. So you should very easily state whether or not you're going to reject the null hypothesis, and then based on that decision, you should be able to say whether or not you're supporting the claim, which is usually represented by the alternative hypothesis, usually. So these problems should be pretty simple. All right, it's just a lot of reading, that's all. All right, so hopefully listening to me here, maybe looking at the more instruction, reading through the answer explanations when they come up. Hopefully all this stuff helps you when you're going through this material on your own. And thank you very much for watching.